morning, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Just wanted to talk today about setting the boundary of no contact and why that is so important. If you're breaking up with someone and it was a toxic relationship, why would you need to stay in contact with them? I understand that there are cases where if you have children together and you're having to co-parent, you're going to have to figure out some ways to do that while still protecting your own energies and your own mental health. But in the case of a breakup, and if things have gone poorly, which obviously precipitates a breakup, then going no contact with them. Sorry, I have like a cat hair stuck to my lip. Sorry about that. So going no contact is really about protecting you. It's a boundary that we set in order to allow for us to actually get some distance and space. And that distance and space is so important for our healing. And so, I'll often see people in groups, or I've even had clients ask me, should I go no contact? I feel badly or whatever, or there's still like this little glimmer of hope that they're going to change and they'll come back to me and all of that stuff. The reality is that if it was a toxic relationship and it's ended, the likelihood of them changing and coming back to you is pretty slim. A lot of times what happens in heterosexual relationships is that the male leaving the relationship or who's been left, if they do any kind of work at all, they're doing it for the next relationship. They don't often do the work in the relationship that, they were in. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been broken up with, right? It wouldn't have necessitated the ending of a relationship. So if you've gotten to the point where you're actually, you've walked away or they've walked away, it's done. And, 9 times out of 10, it's probably done for good. And it should be, right? So what happens a lot of times is you'll get that space or distance, and then they'll reach out to you and you'll forget all of the negative things that went on in the relationship because you've gotten that space and distance. And then you'll start to really romanticize or build up all of the positive things because maybe you're feeling lonely. Maybe you're missing those positive things and you're still mourning the loss of what could have been. And so maybe you allow yourself to be in contact with them again. And you think, well, this time I'll just, I'll set boundaries and I'll make sure I keep myself safe. But the reality is that once you sort of set that boundary, if you go back on it, you're just putting yourself back in that rut, back in that space. It's not a new place to be in oftentimes. It's just a return to old patterns. It might look slightly different. There might be some subtle changes, but in reality, it's likely just going to, it might start off in that changed state. And then unless some real work has been done, it will often just slide back into those patterns, right? Because we'll be feeding off of each other and we'll be re-triggering each other in the same ways unless both of you have done the work individually to really get a sense of your triggers and how to manage those and or integrate them, right? So that they're no longer triggers. That's the only way real change is going to come about if you're reconnecting, right? So if you've done that work and you want to reconnect, sure, obviously, if there was something there that was worth building on, maybe there's still something there. But in all likelihood, the no contact is the right play to protect you and allow for you to actually do the process of grieving and healing your relationship and getting to a point where you're feeling much more grounded and healthy. And why would we allow for that person who kind of broke down our self-confidence and broke down our feelings of self-worth, why would we allow them back in our lives, right? So the no contact is to protect you, as most boundaries are. So it's not about, punishing them, making them pay or, there's often this sense of like when there's a breakup that, maybe this will be the thing that makes them change. And maybe it will. Sometimes people have to sort of hit that wall, hit the rock bottom, whatever, lose the thing that's important to them for them to know that it was important. But the reality is that a lot of times they either don't recognize your worth, or they do and they just don't care when they trample on it, right? So giving them that opportunity again to do that to you is just gonna probably set you back in your healing journey, to be honest. So I mean, it's an entirely personal situation. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying that in the case of boundaries, we don't set them in hopes that this will be the catalyst for their change. The boundary is to protect you. It's to protect your heart, to protect your energy, your soul, and to allow for you to do the healing that you need to do, right? So if they've gone and done their healing and they're coming back, then, maybe you allow for, a lessening of this boundary, but then maybe you're going to set some other boundaries to make sure that they actually have done the work, right? So, no contact doesn't mean forever, but it should be something that you go into when you set that boundary with the intention of keeping it forever, unless they really, really, and I mean really, through their actions, not just their words, but through their actions, show that they're a changed, different person. And the only way that they're going to really change and, present as some newer version of them is if they've done some work, right? So, being free for however long and being out there dating and doing other things with other people isn't the same as doing the work, right? So just something to think about. If you're in a toxic relationship or you're getting out of a toxic relationship, learning boundaries can be just vitally important at this point and throughout your healing process to help you really stay strong in the fact that you're putting yourself first, right? That's really what a boundary is. It's me saying, I'm putting myself first. I'm putting my needs first. I'm putting my health first. And because I'm doing that, I'm no longer allowing for these behaviors to show up in my relationships with other people. That's what a boundary is, right? So if you struggle with boundaries, which a lot of people do, it's not something that comes naturally to most people. It's often not something we're taught, right? So it's something that we often have to learn and develop and grow in, right? So, and at first it can be really, really hard. It feels uncomfortable, especially if we're a people pleaser and if we've been putting everyone else before us. Setting boundaries can be like daunting. It can feel extremely unnatural, and it can cause a lot of anguish, right? Because if you're so used to people pleasing and doing for others, and you start setting boundaries, the minute you start getting some pushback from those people that you're normally very accommodating to, it will bring up some like questions within you and have you questioning whether you should be doing this, and maybe this isn't right, or I'm pushing people away or whatever. But I really want you to understand that it's really vitally important that we know our boundaries and that we're willing to stay true to them, right? And that comes from knowing our self-worth and really truly loving ourselves. And that's often the biggest challenge, right? So, in order to be able to get better at this, we need to go deeper And it's like all of the steps that I talk about for healing from a toxic relationship. It's like at the center of it has to be, you know, a, a reconnection to ourselves in such a way that we become so deeply loving towards ourselves that it becomes easier to set boundaries, that it becomes easier to resource ourselves, it becomes easier to care for our own health, it becomes easier to reach out and connect to other people, it becomes easier to have a mindful meditation practice. Like all of that branches off of the self-love, right? So that's what we need to really work on. And then the rest of it will sort of start to unravel or start to connect more easily because we've taken care of that piece. So if you're feeling like you have no idea how to set boundaries, you're not sure where to start, you have maybe an inkling that self-love is something that you find challenging, then feel free to reach out. We can have a private chat over Messenger. We can do a quick little call to see where you're at. I set aside 45 minutes for my free consultation. It doesn't always take 45 minutes. So if you're thinking, I don't have time for a 45-minute call, message me. We can do some of it over just Messenger, using our thumbs. And then we can just do the quick call to just kind of really see if what, the work that I do could be beneficial and if it would be a good fit, right? So it doesn't have to be this big thing. And then, so if you feel like you need some extra help in these areas, then reach out. If I'm not it, then I have a network of people that I can refer you to, and we can get you on the road to recovery and on the road to self-love, because that's really where it's all about. Okay? So thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Namaste.